Welcome to WRM, Work Relationships Matter. I'm your host, the Edward Jones, a certified life coach who specializes in work relationships. Now, whether you work in a private corporation, nonprofit, or operate as an entrepreneur, work relationships matter. My guests are successful because they've learned how to develop constructive work relationships. Anthony Beinar, Senior Business Analyst at Realty Income, is with me today. He is here to share his thoughts and experiences that will be beneficial to you. Welcome, Anthony.
Thanks, Ed. It's good to be here.
It's good to be here. And folks, full disclosure, Anthony and I met on a plane from San Diego to Chicago. We started talking and then we learned that we had a lot in common and we set this up. So you never know when you're going to meet an interesting person anywhere in life. So talk to that person next to you in the plane. But anyway, Anthony, I know you've probably been to uh, mixers, probably meetings and stuff like that where you have your name tag on.
Mm-hmm.
And they see your name tag and somebody might walk up and the first question they ask you is, what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
So what I like to do is, rather than we're going to get to what you do, but what I want to do is first of all, find out who you are. Talk about how you growing up, people who've influenced you or other things that may have happened in your life when you were young that may have informed your future. So talk to me about who Anthony Beinar is.
Yeah, thanks, Ed. And that's absolutely right. We met on a Southwest Airlines flight from San Diego to Midway Airport in Chicago. And I feel so blessed. After that flight, I told everyone in Chicago, I just sat next to the nicest couple. And I was just struck by you and your wife's friendliness and absolute passion and curiosity for people. And it seemed like a relentless pursuit of learning. So I was just so impressed and I knew I had to be friends with you and continue this relationship. So, to your point about how you opened the podcast, work relationships matter for those who work on them. And that's something I try and practice every single day. So to answer your question about my background, I'm the second son of two very bright and adventurous small business owners. I was raised in Southern California, just about an hour north of LA in a town called Ventura. And growing up, my brother, his thing was airlines and airplanes. In the backyard, we had this island where we would set up food for barbecue. And he would pretend that this island was an aircraft carrier and set up model airplanes on it and launch them off the island. Today, he's a jet fighter for the US Air Force. And I, on the other hand, was always very business oriented, I would say. From a very young age, I would collect coins in this big mixing bowl. And when the coins would stack up almost to the top, it would take me about a month. I would grab the bowl, walk half a mile up the street to our local grocery store and put it in that Coinstar machine where you'd spill all the coins one by one in. And at the end of it, they'd give you a cash receipt for like $25, which you would give to the cashier. And then she would give you cash. So I always had this sort of entrepreneurial mindset. I'm not sure exactly where it came from, but I would sense that it's part of maybe growing up with two parents who were small business owners, who sort of led the example and were good role models for me, to show me that it was possible.
Okay. So you just had this thing with the money. It's like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to be dealing with money here.
Right. Yeah, just managing money was always, I guess, like a hobby or like an interest of mine.
Now, interestingly, now, when you got the $25, were you thinking about what you were going to buy with it, or it was just kind of the process of handling money?
Yeah, I think it was more so the process of saving and 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 handling money and then just putting it aside for a rainy day. I wouldn't be so much looking forward to what I was spending it on as opposed to like sort of like having it built up if anything, sort of like came along down.
Okay.
So I was always a saver from a very young age.
And that's really interesting. And I see where you were as a child and then where you are today. So
Right.
how did you get into what you're doing now with being an analyst?
Yeah. So my parents always encouraged me to find a niche in whatever industry I went in, and also encouraged me to find a degree in something that was marketable or
Okay.
and um and my mom is a freelance CFO for healthcare industry, so she's sort of like found her niche. My dad is an engineering sales representative who has his own small business in very like specialized parts, so he's found his niche as well. So I went to the University of San Diego and studied finance with, managing money. I've also helped my dad manage real estate property. So then I got, a little bit of passion for real estate. And my minor was in information technology. So I decided that technology would be my niche. And, growing up in the digital era, I've always felt very comfortable using technology and teaching other people. I think on the flight to Southwest, I was helping you with your laptop and, trying to get it connected and making sure the headphones work. So I've always grown around devices, online devices, and I've been very comfortable with that. So I like talking to people and working in an environment with new technology and finance. Finance is ubiquitous. So that's kind of led me to find my niche as a business analyst for a commercial real estate company.
So it's kind of a marriage of two things, the technology and the finance. So do you, I mean, those are two very important fields, especially right now or anytime.
Mm-hmm.
So of the two, which one would you say, are they equally, you have passion for both of them equally? Or is there one that you say, this is the one that I think is going to lead and the other one is going to be kind of the secondary? What would you say, how do you feel about those two areas?
I would say finance is my primary passion, and then real estate's more of an interest. And it
Well, I was thinking about the technology. I was thinking about the technology.
technology.
Yeah.
I would say that technology is technology is more of my passion,
Okay.
and finance is an interest and something that I try and incorporate into my daily life with like personal finance and planning. And it's a bit of a touchy subject, so you can't always and
Mhm.
friends and family. So I try and stay away from that, and sort of becoming a professional in commercial real estate finance has allowed me to sort of flex that muscle a little bit in a more professional environment. But I always try and weave in technology, and I've become like the go-to person on like new Excel tips, or like we're rolling out Salesforce, for instance, and I'm the go-to person leading that new initiative because they know I'm an early adopter and I like to learn things and train other people.
Well, tell me how now technology is always changing. always move. So basically, what's that like with the speed of change in technology? Are you experiencing that? Do you just how do you stay abreast with the changes that occur?
You're absolutely right. It can be difficult. For instance, there's one project where our acquisitions team and our legal team just migrated platforms. We had two separate platforms and we've consolidated them into one. Basically two Excel spreadsheets now living in the same shared document. And now the next iteration is going to be like a 6-month project to get Salesforce up and running. And the only way to really keep abreast of all the changes is to be a lifelong learner and to know that you don't know it all and to ask or learn when you don't know the answer. And honestly, just be a lifelong learner is really the key. And just always be curious and ask questions and see what's out there that you don't know.
Well, because one thing that occurred is that you say that they merged two systems. And I think when you're merging systems, obviously you have a passion for it and will probably look to do that. But everybody in the organization doesn't have that same passion, but they've got to use a new system. Do you get resistance whenever there's this kind of rapid change with technology and helping to help others come along?
Certainly change management's can be difficult, especially when people have done something a certain way for a long time. Usually you'll encounter some resistance, but just be very clear as to like the benefits, knowing your audience, knowing what key workflows and processes they value, what efficiency looks like to them, and sort of marketing the benefits of this change to them. And also, once they have an idea of how it helps them, also seeing the bigger picture and showing how it helps the overall organization. So that takes a lot of time. And me and my colleagues spent several weeks setting up training sessions and talking through all the benefits with the group.
Yeah, because it's always interesting when I think about training, because a lot of times when I worked as an administrator, people are like, I want to do the work. I don't want to go to training. I just want to do the work. And this training is getting in the way. It's slowing me down. I got projects I got to do. And I'm sitting in this training session when I should be doing my work. Do you,
Right.
Is there a mindset in your organization that change is going to happen? Or are there people who are just saying, I like what I'm doing, I don't want to change?
There is a mindset. I would say it depends on the department in my organizations, but the acquisitions department is pretty fast paced, young, and they're open to change. The organization as a whole, I think, is pretty good at having this culture of flexibility and adaptation. We've seen in the commercial real estate industry in the past 2 years, pretty much every industry has been affected by COVID. So we've had to adopt in some way, shape, or form, and technology is no different. So there is a little resistance, but people know that to be in business these days, any day, I think, is to change, because change is growth. And as a public company, that's what's expected of us is constant quarter over quarter, year over year growth.
Right. And you see the benefits through maybe profits, whatever it might be. There, you can see that benefit by being more adept, probably.
Exactly. It translates into all these other benefits down the line, which is really what a business should be doing. It's changing and growing So that's what
Absolutely.
we do as people too.
Right. Now, the thing we talked a little bit about before we went on the recording is how COVID has changed your workspace.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I think about, if I was back in the world of the corporate world, I would probably like to work 3 days a week. I'd like to have Monday and Friday off, come into the office Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That would be ideal. It wasn't an option for me when I was in the work setting. So, what's life been like for you and the people in your organization with the changes and the COVID, et cetera, et cetera?
That's funny you say that your ideal workplace environment would be 3 days in the office, Tuesday through Thursday. That's actually what management has afforded to us.
Hmm.
They've also allowed us to have sort of a flexible work schedule, they call it. So it's only 5 hours in the office
Okay.
on the days that you are in the office, Tuesday through Thursday. So you just have to meet with your manager and say, hey, I'm a morning person. I'd like to
Mhm.
be in at 7 o'clock and then, be out at noon. And you can do that. Or you could start a little bit later around 9 and then go home around 2 and take a lunch. So they've, they know, I think most companies have surveyed their workforce, and largely the feedback has been that employees like the flexibility of working remote or hybrid. And I would say it's no different with my company currently. Most people would prefer, I think, to work the majority of their time remote. Some employees, I would say I count myself among them, in enjoying the camaraderie and some of like snacks and benefits and happy hours. And it's important to be there to show up for your colleagues' birthdays. And employers are recognizing that, I think. But we're still trying to find that right balance of how do we get that camaraderie, but also give employees that autonomy.
Right. Right. So when you work, do you primarily work in groups or you primarily work separately when you're say in the doing your work? Because is it a team or is it more individual and you come together in the break room to get camaraderie?
Yeah, it's funny. We do most of our work at our desks,
Okay.
isolated. And then for the calls, usually uh, for a conference call,
Mm-hmm.
pre-COVID, you might meet in a big room, but um, we're still just meeting via Zoom or Teams of
Mm-hmm.
meeting, even though we're all, a good proportion of us, a good portion of the workforce is in the same office. We're still going to meet virtually because our team has now been segmented into different regions. So, some of them are working remotely, some of them are working in another office. The business has expanded across the US and internationally.
Okay.
In order to account for that, we hold our meetings virtually. So it's kind of funny coming into the office just to have virtual meetings. But
It
there's
is interesting.
but there's still, you bump into colleagues you wouldn't really see as much, and you still kind of have that
Right.
water cooler talk or donut bagels.
Mm-hmm.
That's another benefit to me that we discussed is eating my weight in work provided snacks. So
So, what is the toughest situation you faced in the work setting or maybe anywhere, and how did you handle it?
um I would say what type of a situation are you saying?
It could be anything, I mean, it could be a resistance to work, it could be change, it could be
Mhm.
whatever it might be, or maybe you never had one.
Yeah, so I would say that The toughest situation for me recently has been sort of like planning my own career with some personal life changes. We met on a flight from San Diego to Chicago when I was going to visit my girlfriend who's in med school in Chicago. And it's been difficult for me to sort of like plan out my future trajectory. After 2 years of working remotely, I've enjoyed that flexibility of being able to be wherever I want to be, do whatever I want to do as long as I get my work done. But now I sort of have this anchor, having to come into the office, 3 days a week and be based in San Diego. So that's something I'm going to have like a conversation with my manager about going forward, is like flexibility. Can I get a transfer to go to Chicago if that's something I want to do, work remotely, having that conversation. And then if not, it's like, okay, is it time to consider a career move and see what's available on the market? So
Right.
that's an upcoming
right now.
Right. Yeah, that I'm at that crossroads right now. And
Okay.
A lot of people out there are at that crossroads in life, especially people my age, I would say.
Yep, that's definitely true. The data definitely shows that. What do you find most rewarding about the workplace or whatever?
I would say that it's always when I look back on my days, the days that I feel are the most rewarding is when I've had the opportunity to help someone or make their lives easier at work. Just building that positive relationship that we talked about at the top of the call is so important. And you feel so much purpose, and you feel like you have impact in what you do. And I think that's what everyone strives to do, is sort of have this positive impact every single day on the people in your life. And as a business analyst, I'm sort of analyzing all of our processes and finding ways to optimize the processes and come up with improvements. So, sometimes I encounter that resistance, but I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't, raise an issue and say like, hey, this is a little bit different than what we've done in the past. But I think in the long term, I have this vision that it's going to really positively impact the work.
Right. So a positive impact is what you find most rewarding.
I would say so. Improve the lives of those around me each and every day somehow, in and out of work.
For sure. Is there anything else that you wanted to share that I didn't ask? You said there's a question. I wish you would ask me this and answer it. Or is there any words that you'd like to leave our audience with that would benefit them?
For the audience, I would say really it's up to you and your life. I've listened to some other podcasts that Ed has done, and I've just been blown away by the guests and how each one of them has encountered some sort of adversity. And as a young person, sometimes people will say, if you've worked at a job, just keep your head down, focus on the work and don't really think about it. But there's a difference, I learned between the head and the gut from the show. And if that is telling you that there's something better out there, never settle and always listen to your gut and take risks and be adventurous and try and do things the way that you think that they should be done, and people will eventually listen to you. So don't always just put your head down. Sometimes you have to bring your head up and focus on what's ahead.
That's great advice. Well, Anthony, if people want to get a hold of you and learn more about your company or your business, how would they do that?
The best way to connect with me, I think, would be on LinkedIn. Go to linkedin.com/in/ABEINAR, Beinar,
Mhm.
and feel free to send me an invite or a message.
Okay. Now, is there a website to your company, or is that just more for the company?
The company website's realtyincome.com.
Okay.
The O on the stock market on New York Stock Exchange.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. Well, Anthony, it has been a pleasure talking with you. I'm glad we got a chance to do this. Uh, who knows? We may continue to do that, and I'll give you the information about the other person that you mentioned when we were offline. But thank you so much for your time today.
Perfect, Ed. Thank you.
And folks, I am the Edward Jones, certified life coach. My company is Pro Destiny Coaching. To learn more about this podcast or about my coaching, go to www.prodestinycoaching.com. Once again, that's www.prodestinycoaching.com. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Blog once a week, and so check out my blogs as well. But most of all, those who are in work situation, whether it's corporate, private, entrepreneur, that work relationships work for those who work on them. Welcome to WRM, Work Relationships Matter. I'm your host, the Edward Jones, a certified life coach who specializes in work relationships. Now, whether you work in a private corporation, nonprofit organization, or operate as an entrepreneur, work relationships matter. My guests are successful because they've learned how to develop constructive relationships. Joelle Jackson, a conscious leadership coach and author of Unlock Your Conscious Leadership, is here today to share her thoughts and experiences that will be beneficial to you. Welcome, Joelle.
Thank you so much for having me, Edward. Thank you. So good to see you.
It definitely is. Now, Joelle, you have been successful. I've read your book and obviously worked with you before. And the thing that I think about is everybody knows what you do, but I like to start out with asking who people are. As I mentioned before, many times I've gone to mixers and I got my name tag on, and the first thing people come up and ask, what what do you do? And
Mhm.
I'm thinking, I want to know what people do, but I want to know who they are, how it all began. There may have been something influence early in your life that helped springboard you to where you are today. But who is Joelle Jackson, and how did it all get started for you?
Well, that's a really good question because people usually ask, "What do you do?" but they don't really ask who you are. So I would say I'm just a person who's trying to make a positive difference in the world, in everything I do, in every hat that I wear, in every aspect of life, whether it is in my relationship with my children or through working with clients in my practice as a coach. But technically, what my goal is to make a positive difference in the world by making this world a better and more just place for everyone.
Now, what got you started in that one? Was there something when you were younger that you saw something, or maybe there's a person who influenced you in that area? So, how did that all? Where did that come from?
As they say, sometimes we're a product of our environment. We're a mix of nature and nurture. And I would say that that's very true for me. I grew up in Lebanon, and having grown up in a place that was experiencing a civil war, as a child, all you want is peace and calm and steadiness and stability. And you look around you and you see a lot of darkness, but you also recognize that there's a lot of light. And how do you're drawn to the light? I believe all of us are drawn to the light. It's just a question of what we're going to be listening to, and what are we going to find our agency and act on it? And I guess in that environment, I wanted to create more peace. I wanted to create stability and justice for everyone. And, I'm trying to keep my answer concise, but when I was getting ready to go to college, I had the opportunity to move to the United States and as an international student. And I was drawn to journalism because I thought that through becoming a journalist or a broadcast journalist, I can be the voice for the voiceless. And I write about it in my book, that journey. It was a very windy one, but I ended up not pursuing that because I didn't feel that was the career that would allow me to do so. And so then I eventually went to graduate school to focus on international affairs and had the great opportunity to work in international development. But then again, as I was trying to achieve the goal of making the world a better and more just place, I began to realize that it's not as easy as I thought it would be to do that through my work in international development on a macro level for many reasons and because of many factors that play into it. What I eventually discovered is if I truly want to make a difference in the world, I would want to be the change that I want to see in the world. If I want to be peace, if I want to be stability, if I want to be more light than dark, if I want to be love or want the world to be love, I would want to be all of those things. At the end of the day, we can, through the way we think and feel and act, change the environment around us, create a ripple effect, just like the flutter of a butterfly in New York and having that ripple effect all the way to China. So I discovered coaching, and I believe that through coaching and through working with people on a one-on-one level, helping them raise their consciousness and begin to lead with love, lead with peace, finding that inner peace and lead with it, you can create that change you want to see in the world, hence be the change you want to see in the world. Or one of my other favorite quotes by Dr. King: darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. So those are the principles that I live by that guide me in my work and in my coaching.
Excellent, excellent. That is great. A good backstory for what you do today. So you started out in journalism and you're doing some other things. And how did you find coaching?
It kind of found me as much as I found it. I had just left my work in Washington, D.C. and international development. I was still in a period of soul searching. And I heard that, through my husband who was getting coached about coaching. And I'm like, that sounds really cool. I want to check it out. And then just things ended up lining up where I ended up looking into different coaching schools. And I found coaching to be, exactly like I describe it, this opportunity for me to work with people on a one-on-one level and help them find the way to self-empowerment, the way to be the change they want to see in the world. And I settled on one coaching school that I felt really resonated with me in the way they, through their energy leadership model, and that is Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching, IPAC.
Okay. Now, what was about that attracted you?
The model, again, it's focused highly on changing the way we, our energy or our attitude or our consciousness. They all mean, they're synonymous, they mean the same thing. But it's essentially that if we want to change the reality we're living in, shape a different outcome, if there's anything in our lives that we're not finding fulfilling or satisfactory, we can go and dig deeper and look at the way we're thinking or whatever belief we are holding around this issue or that, or what is influencing us on a conscious or subconscious level, digging into that and changing the way we think about it, which would trigger, of course, a different feeling. And through that feeling, we act differently and shape a different outcome or shape a different reality. So if we want to look at it a different way, what I liked about it is understanding, or I liked about the program is that it really honed in on what we really have under our control. What is our locus of control? Is it internal variables or external variables? And if we look at it closely, we realize that what we really are in control of are our thoughts and emotions and actions, not any external variable. We may be able to influence external variables, but we don't have control or power over them. And the minute we think we can change external variables, that's when we feel powerless, because most of the time we really don't have that power to affect change on the external as much as we can on the internal. And as soon as we change the way we look at things, and I think that's, I'm taking that from Wayne Dyer, that when you change the way you look at things, the things you're looking at change.
Excellent. Excellent. Now, conscious leadership. When you say conscious leadership, is that kind of what you're talking about here, or is there even more you can elaborate on?
Yeah, it's like taking you through a maze to get back to conscious leadership. That's exactly it. The conscious leadership concept is essentially leading ourselves from a higher levels of consciousness, from a conscious level, not unconsciously. And as you know, as human beings, as a coach, as human beings, we're hardwired to operate unconsciously off of automatic thinking. It takes an effort, a conscious effort, to begin to choose our thoughts, emotions, and actions from a place that feels more empowering, not disempowering. Or let me say that differently. The minute we decide to choose our thoughts, emotions, and actions consciously, we tend to choose what is in our highest good, what makes us feel empowered, what makes us feel like we are, whatever we are experiencing is serving us, not hurting us. And that process itself is conscious leadership. It's a process of self-leadership from a higher level of consciousness.
Okay. Now I'm curious, I'm going back to when you said your husband was going through coaching and you kind of listened in or whatever, however you got connected with that. But what was it that his company decided that coaching was something that their leadership group needed, or how did that connection happen? Because it's kind of a ripple effect from your husband's leadership group got him into coaching, and then through that you got into coaching. So I'm just trying to figure out how that thread kind of came through.
So in his work, they were offering his team a coach, to be coached by a professional coach. So he was going through coaching as a client, as a coachee. And this is his experience. I was inspired. I was like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. Like, I like the opportunity it's presenting you to self-reflect, to raise your self-awareness, to do these different exercises, to begin to change the way you're thinking about all aspects of your life. And I thought maybe that's what I need to be doing now, because, I guess one thing I didn't mention in the journey towards discovering coaching is that I knew all my life that I wanted to make a positive difference in the world. And I tried to kind of pursue those opportunities that I felt would be the right paths for me to be able to achieve that goal. What I discovered later is that I've been given a God-given talent. We all have God-given talents. That's what I talk about in the chapter on Liberate Your Talent. We all have a reason why we're here, I believe. There's a life purpose that we all have. And I discovered through a conversation that I was having with a friend who was an activist that my talent is this ability to be an active listener, to have empathy and compassion for the people that I'm working with. And it is through this approach that I have that I end up helping them discover their best self, align with their inner genius, feel empowered and inspired. And so even, though back then I was figuring out, okay, how do I make the world a better place? Do I do it through journalism? Do I do it through international development? The minute that I was able to zero in on what I believe is my God-given talent, then I was able to place it where I feel is it's the best place for it to be unleashed. And I believe this coaching was the best place for it, because it comes to me so naturally, and I don't feel like I'm working. I feel like I'm just doing something that I just greatly enjoy, that is it's so energizing for me. The minute I'm able to help a person feel that they've reached a breakthrough where they feel more empowered or they feel that they're transforming their lives, I am just so gratified. And I feel like I'm living life from a higher level of consciousness where I'm creating that positive change that I've always wanted to create.
That's great. And I think about it, for me being a former administrator, a lot of times, and when you're in higher positions, there's so many demands, pressures, et cetera, and you're sometimes moving so quickly, and deadlines are there, and different things happening, that sometimes you need someone to look from the outside because you're so busy operating. It's just like athletes with coaches. They've got talent, but a coach helps them use that talent in the most effective way. So I see that as kind of a similar thing to that corporate coaching that your husband had, and that you obviously benefited from probably more than he did.
Yeah, because I think we get inspired by, or there are signs that are always there for us to discover. And I believe
Right.
that was a sign that I was supposed to see that would trigger something in me that would put me on this path that I'm on right now, which I feel is the best thing that has ever happened. One of the best things. I can't say that it's the only best thing, but one of the best things, because there's nothing more gratifying and liberating than being able to do what you feel puts you in a state of flow, like the one I talk about in my book, this place where you feel like you lose sense for time and space, you lose sense of self, you lose your ego, and you just move into this transcendental space. And that's how I feel in coaching. And so I'm just so grateful that I've been able to discover it.
Excellent, excellent. Now, you were talking in the beginning about being in Lebanon and coming through a kind of a war situation. So this could cover anything from your life to coaching or whatever. What's the toughest situation you faced, and how did you handle it?
Oh gosh, I faced a lot of tough situations, but maybe if I were to pull from the book, I think one of them is making that decision to leave my comfort zone more than
Hmm.
once. But I would say, in terms of the position that I had in Washington, D.C., working for a very prestigious organization. And, a lot of us, when we join organizations like that, it has a sense of like, it makes you feel good about yourself, like, oh, look at me, I've accomplished so much, I'm working for this organization. And it makes us sometimes lose track of what really matters the most to us, because a lot of us would prefer to just stick to a career that looks good, makes people impressed when we mention that, you work for so and so. Oh, that's so cool. You're doing that. Oh, wow. But a lot of us, and I know that for a fact, because I've coached so many people from all over the world, whether it's through my private practice or as a contractor. I know for a fact that a lot of people end up staying in jobs like that. Because they look glamorous on the outside, but on the inside, they're miserable. And a lot of people end up sacrificing what matters most to them, which I call their top values. And maybe a term you're familiar with as a coach, in terms of helping our clients discover their values. What is the top priority? What are your top priorities that, get you excited to wake up every morning and take on the day? And sometimes they have nothing to do with the glamour of an organization that you work for, or the names that you can drop and say, I know so and so, or I went to the White House, or I met this person at the State Department. Those things don't matter. What matters at the end of the day, how aligned are you with what matters to you? What your top values, your why? What's your why? And what are you doing to honor your why? Do you wake up every morning dreading that alarm, or do you wake up excited to take on the day? The most difficult situation for me, I would say, is just releasing that, letting go of it, and making the decision to pursue what matters most to me, what is aligned with my authentic self, and and it had nothing to do with glamour or prestige. And so I just walked away from that. And I think a lot of people, unfortunately, and maybe not for them, but I feel like if they only knew how life would feel if they were to let go of these things that they think will bring them happiness, and then truly discover what happiness is, which is living authentically and speaking their truth and honoring their values. That's why I said it's unfortunate. If they only knew how amazing that would be, then that decision wouldn't be hard to leave all that.
I think the toughest thing is probably what people called, at least I worked at State Farm Insurance Company for a while, and they called it the velvet chain, and that was all the money and benefits.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because and State Farm's a great company, and I have still have their products, but there were certain people there who looked forward to the holidays, the vacations, and there's a thing called State Farm Park that they went to, where they could have had other opportunities that maybe matched their calling, but they didn't do it because of the velvet chain. Do
Mm-hmm.
you think that's the one thing that holds people into positions maybe where they're not aligned?
Yes. Yes, I believe so. I mean, I have it come up during my coaching sessions with clients who are considering a career change or taking another position, but then they're like, well, my current employer, they're offering these stock options or this and that. And I don't think, I just have to stick it out for, I don't know how many more years until I can, be able to take advantage of this or that. And then they're miserable in the interim. And I'm not sure if, for me, I mean, it's really up to the individual whether or not they want to continue. But I always wonder, is it really worth it to be suppressing what you really want to do, what really matters to you the most, who you are authentically, your truth? Is it really worth it to suppress that or to not honor it, make it a priority just because of something that, the velvet, what did you call it? The velvet
velvet chain.
The velvet chain, yeah.
Right. Well, it's interesting because I just came to mind is Michelle Obama was in that situation where she was a lawyer making really, really good money, but she took a pay cut to work with, I think, kids or something like that, maybe a 40% pay cut.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, wow, but she was happier. Her parents think, you went to school, you did all these things, you went to Princeton, all these great schools, you went through law school, you had all these things, and she had to tell them, I'm not happy.
Yes. Yes. And that
So
happens a lot.
it does happen.
I'm sure you've met a lot of people in your coaching program who are doing all these like high-powered jobs like lawyers and executives, but they were searching for more meaning and they wanted to find that meaning. And the meaning sometimes exists outside of these types of positions. For some, they find them meaningful, but others are not finding them meaningful anymore. And I think that's what really we're seeing now with the Great Resignation. Don't you think, Edward? It's the great reflection, the great reprioritization. Those are other terms I've heard about. I did talk about it in the last chapter of my book, but I think what happened with the pandemic is that it forced us to slow down. And you know what happens when you slow down? You begin to reflect. We were forced to go inside our houses and go into lockdown, but we were also forced to look within and ask ourselves, what is the most important thing to me? What really matters? Do I really want to continue to be part of this rat race of day in and day out doing the same thing, like like a mouse on a wheel every single day? Or do I want to begin to live in alignment with my values, which is essentially living in integrity, right? We walk our values, we're living in integrity. And that's why people are just saying enough is enough. I can't do this anymore. I want to find what gives meaning to my life, where I feel I'm living my life purpose with clarity, with passion, with joy.
Absolutely. Now, you probably already covered it, but I'll ask the question anyway. What do you find most rewarding about coaching?
It's, yes, exactly like I mentioned earlier, this idea that I'm able to see my clients reach those breakthroughs that lead to their transformation in any aspect of life they're hoping to transform in. When I can see a person like go like, oh, I didn't think about it that way, or like,
Right.
oh yeah, I think I can do that, or just that clarity, that excitement they also get to when they find that, oh, I can do this, I thought I couldn't do it. And you're not only just helping them raise their self-awareness and begin to think about things differently, but as a coach, you're their cheerleader. You're cheering them along to move towards that goal or dream that they have. And you're helping them also envision the dream that they have, because a lot of them come to us, as you know, they don't have the clarity on what they want because maybe they got so disillusioned, so discouraged, so worn out. They're not sure how to imagine a better future anymore. And so you're helping kind of prompt them through the work you do with them, the questions we ask, the different tools and techniques to begin to dream again. And that's amazing.
Right. Now, this is your book. Now, is there what prompted you to write the book? I mean, you talked a little bit about your experiences, your life experience, and is it a matter of wanting to share your experience to help others?
Yes, exactly. So I started the book in 2015 when I moved to California. But I wanted it then because I discovered, through my coaching program that, oh my gosh, only if people knew how cool this is, this idea of when we change the way we think, we change the way we feel, we can change our whole world, we can change our whole life. I just wanted to share that information, and I wanted to leverage the work I was doing as a coach to support my practice. And I feel like the book would add so much credibility to that, as you know. But then the pandemic hit, and I was like, 2015 to 2019, 2020, I'm still trying to write the book. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to get this done because there's no better time for me to share this message. And now when people, like I mentioned, are looking within, reflecting and discovering, I want to change my life. So in this book, I was hoping to provide them with that blueprint on how to change their lives and to go beyond the superficial. I'm sorry to say that, because a lot of people begin to discover these self-help gurus, and they're like, change the way you think, be positive, think positive. And they're like, okay, I'm changing the way I'm thinking and I'm trying to be positive, I'm saying affirmations, but then nothing is changing in my life. And that's what I wanted to share with them in the book, is why nothing is changing, because you got to dig deeper. There are those 4 key parts in your life that you have to liberate from the status quo: your mind, your heart, your body, and talent. If any of them are stuck in the status quo, then nothing's going to change, because we are holistic beings. And unless we address all aspects or key parts of ourselves, nothing's going to change.
Right. And I think it's so important in that I remember reading, I did read some Wayne Dyer, but I guess my initial guru was Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And I read it when I was younger, and I knew it on a surface level. But with life and experiences and looking to apply those things, I did get a much deeper and richer feeling about it. So it's like, well, I was at this level when I first read it, then I've gone so much deeper because of life experiences and trying to apply those things. And some days, I pray for patience. And there's a funny thing about it. The Creator gives you opportunities to see if you have it.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, I don't want to be stuck in traffic. You pray for patience.
Yes.
Now let's see if you got it. And that is kind of what I hear you saying, is that you can hear it, but until you really incorporate it into your life, you really can't change. Would that be an accurate
Absolutely.
assessment?
Absolutely. If someone can tell us over and over again that this is the way things are and this is how you'd want to go about them, but unless we experience it for ourselves and see it and buy into it, And that's why coaching is powerful, because we don't tell you what to do. We believe you're the expert in you, and you have an inner genius within you that has all the solutions to your problems and all the answers to your questions. That, and that's what we do. We help you align and find it within you, but you do the work, you own it, and you have to buy into it. Otherwise, you can't really have a successful coaching engagement. And, those who come to coaching because they've been told to go do coaching by their boss, I think those are the hardest clients to have, because they're really not bought into it.
That's true. So the thing about it, Joelle, the time just gets away from us. So let me ask you, if people want to learn more about your coaching, where would they go? Websites, LinkedIn, whatever. How could they reach you and learn more about you and how to maybe connect with you?
So definitely, I have my website, Joelle Jackson, Joelle Jackson.com. And you can find me on LinkedIn, on Instagram. The same thing, my handle is Joelle Jackson on both, or on Twitter and Facebook. But I'm trying to get people to follow me on Instagram. So please do join me on Instagram or on LinkedIn. And I'd love to connect with you and share more about the book that way.
Well, Joelle, thank you so much. It's been so wonderful just to talk with you again. And you definitely dropped a lot of great nuggets. And I have the book. I started reading it and I'm finding it very, very helpful. I look at the exercises and just looking at that journey. And it's one thing that we can all relate to. So thank you so much for that.
And I want to thank you, Edward, for having me as a guest on your show. I'm just so happy that we had the chance to connect today and talk. You're one of the most pleasant people to engage with in a deep, rich conversation. So, and I always learn so much from talking to you. So thank you so much for having me.
Well, well, thank you. And so at this point, we're going to sign off because I could talk to you forever, but I know I got to let it go. But anyway, folks, you've been listening to Work Relationships Matter. You've been listening to Joelle Jackson. Definitely get the book and you will be blessed by it. And if you want to be even more blessed, contact her and let her bring out the wisdom that's in you. But again, this is www.prodestinycoaching.com to learn more about me. Work relationships matter. But most importantly, remember that work relationships work for those who work on them.